I had roots and many heavy rocks that would never let me go. That the dryness of the sun and the lack of water would keep me at bay. But I looked inside and saw my rivers overflow deep underneath the earth. Below the skin of soil they flood and freely flow. So I, too, can go wherever I decide to root. I will find the food. I've got the light. I project the shadow. I will be whole.
A magazine where we can come together and float into a swirl of transiting identities, departures and arrivals. I would be just so happy to introduce you to some of our contributors who will share with you pieces that I have really enjoyed reading, and I'd like to invite you to listen wholly, not just to the stories, but also to the writing itself and the language, and how English is moulded and merged and used so beautifully and stretched and expanded by writers who have a different linguistic background.
11 official languages. At the top, English and Afrikaans spoken by white people. But because of the way the structures worked, the structure of the language worked, if you lived in group areas and you went to school in group areas, so whatever group you were in, you went to school there, you lived there, you worked there, you did everything there. So you only learned those languages. So until I was grown up enough to defy the apartheid government in my own right and go into the so-called African townships, I couldn't engage with people who comprise 80% of my country's population. I could therefore not speak any of their languages. So my closest friend, for whom my daughter is named, spoke languages I could never access, because only when I was grown up was I able to access those languages which are indigenous to my country. The other languages I could have accessed were Indian languages from my Indian grandfather and Malay from my Malay ancestry. I can't access either of those because, like the black people of the United States and other colonies, we arrived and were deprived of our language, our culture, our background, our history, so that our parents spoke the language of slavery and not the language that they came from. My grandparents fast lost their Malay, they didn't pass it down, they didn't pass down any Indian language, etc. So what did we grow up with? Only the languages that the apartheid system said we should grow up with, English and Afrikaans. The result is that my first language, hooray, is English. My second language is Afrikaans, which for most of my life I flatly refused to speak unless I was made to speak it. These days, I'm happy to say that Afrikaans is my second language because it means I have access to Flemish and Dutch and some Germanic languages. You know, I'm happy to have had bloody Latin in school because I can access a few Mediterranean languages and so on and so forth. But for the most part, I can't think in another language because English is all I have. Damn it, you know. Speak only one language and speak it badly.
And the sea that was lit up by one bright streak of midnight. But your eyes kept me locked in. Eyes which took me to another land. There I saw my past, felt the warmth of happy memories I thought had been buried forever. I had an overwhelming desire to kiss you, to see if in your kiss I would taste the saltiness of the sea I once knew so well. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have first contributor for the second half, Ayman Eckford, is a Ukrainian autistic refugee who now lives in Sheffield, UK, with his wife and 2 cats. Ayman lived as a refugee or asylum seeker in Russia and Israel before coming to the UK, and we had the opportunity to get our hands first on his short story, Malka's memories. Sorry. Yeah?
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. First, I want to read the story itself, and after that, just explain a little bit of context of the story that I'm reading, so you better understand what's going on here and why it's like personal for me. The story is completely fiction, by the way, but event that's mentioned here is not fiction. So, Mikolka's memories. I was born in Chechnya. Russia invaded a couple months later, bombing the city of Grozny, my hometown. I remember that in those years, everyone used to believe that Russia was a democracy. I remember the sci-fi movies about the weirdos who believed that alien invasions was near, ignored by everyone. Because my father would watch these movies with me, and because he was the only one of you who believed that one day Russia was going to attack Ukraine as well. I remember the first day when my family came back to Ukraine. It was coming back home for them and moving to the new land for me. In our village, I was the only Ukrainian boy who was
being and not as a reference number. In essence, the other side of hope has not only enriched my creative journey, but has also formed my sense of belonging and value as a human being. Thank you.
Activism and began writing. Her work has been published in the UK and elsewhere, including recently On the Other Side of Hope, read out on radio and won literary awards. Shereen will be reading her non-fiction piece, Oh Sister.
I'm so loud, people can probably hear me anyway. Ooh. Well, it's better than having to have the loo roll lowered in the toilet. This piece is a bit of an awkward read because it deals with a relationship which has spanned 66 years. And I will only have time to read the first bit of that relationship to you. It's called Oh Sister and is for my only sister. At the airport, my sister hugs and kisses me. This is not unusual. Even friends hug and kiss at airports. Hellos, goodbyes. My sister cries. Again, not unusual. My sister, unlike me, is a crier. When we were children, I scoffed at her tears, especially when I had made her cry. When we were adolescents, I railed at them, infuriated, when she used tears to manipulate gullible adults, our parents, other relatives, family, friends. I grew out of scoffing and railing to view my sister's tears as merely uncomfortable. This time I don't scoff, I'm not angry, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm totally taken aback because the tears, the hugs, and the kisses are followed by the words, I love you, sis. Now that is unusual. In 60 years and more of sisterhood, we have gone through most of the stereotypes which define sibling relationships. Admiration, emulation, dismissal, rivalry, and above all, conflict. For the first nearly 2 decades of our lives, my relationship with my sister was characterized more by fights and arguments, sly digs and insults, than by hugs, kisses, and words of love. How could it be otherwise when I, the newcomer, had arrived to usurp, if not all of the place she'd held alone in the hearts of our parents, if not all of the attention which had been hers alone for nearly 2 years, then at least.
I chose the rendition of the pieces in order to how I thought they would make sense altogether. So watch out for that. Compliment me in the end. Right. I'd first like to invite Sahra Abdulrahman. She's a London-based writer, particularly interested in exploring culture and identity through her work. She's currently working on her debut novel, a historical fiction set in East Africa in the 1970s. She has been featured on 2 issues of The Other Side of Hope, and today she will be reading 2 of her poems, one of which has been published in the most recent issue, and it's called The Intimidation of a Blank Page.
Thank you, Rubina. So yeah, I will be performing 2 poetries today. My usual medium is novel writing, but for this particular magazine, I'll be doing poetry. So the first one is The Intimidation of a Blank Page. Me versus Microsoft Word. How does Microsoft generate Word? Waiting to be nurtured with the love you do not possess. The endless possibilities at your fingertips, fearing you will see none through. How do you forgive yourself for all the things you did not become? How do you come to terms with what you are? There's nothing more intimidating than a blinking cursor, daring fingers to dance on keys, rendering melodies, ringing like the sun shining off a body of water. I imagine this is how it feels when 2 lovers embrace, rekindling on each fresh page the way a canvas surrenders to colours or a sheet to words. I tenderly caress the touchpad as if it were cheek, hold it as one does a face between both palms, begging for one more sentence. There's nothing more intimidating than a red line under a name. I think about what it means to be unrecognised, to be considered foreign. I tell myself the page is always a welcoming home. It has never forsaken me. Still, I hasten to be added to every dictionary, afraid of being erased. There's nothing more intimidating than autocorrect, with its glaring honesty and nerve, the way keyboards know us better than we do, the way frequently used emojis and learned words listen. Perhaps that is what Hosseini meant when he said time is the most unforgiving of fires. Perhaps that is why I long to mark each memory as unseen, to revel in their beauty anew, pocket them for days like this, why I worry I'll be the only one who remembers, to mourn everything while others have forgotten.